Hi, I am Jennifer Purcell, and welcome to my podcast, Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss, discover, and learn more about the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD and other learning challenges. I do have a website for this podcast, and it is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account for the podcast. They are all under the same name, which is Living with NLD. I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, which can be found by Googling the title of the podcast, which is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. I would like to tell you about a nonprofit that I use for my research for this podcast. It is called the NVLD Project, and I use their blog for my research. They are a nonprofit that is based in New York and is trying to get NVLD back on the DSM, and they provide many resources for people with NVLD on their website. I'll provide you with the website for them in the podcast description. All proceeds from the ads on this podcast will be donated towards the NVLD project. Please feel free to explore the other topics on the podcast, and hopefully you will learn something new from them. I hope you enjoyed today's episodes. Okay, so I'm here with Ben today, and he can start by introducing himself.
My name is Benjamin Rohali. I was diagnosed with nonverbal learning difference at about, I think it was a freshman in high school. And I just am here today because I kind of want to just help others because I think nonverbal learning difference is one of those learning disabilities that is just overlooked, and a lot of people don't have awareness for it, so that's a big thing for me, and a lot of the teachers don't really understand it, so that's why I am here to talk about it.
I can definitely understand where you're coming from, Ben. So if you don't mind sharing, where are you from?
I'm from Huntington Beach, California. I grew up here. I went to boarding school in New York. I failed out. Then I went to one-on-one school. I lived in Sweden. I've lived in Italy. I've lived in Philadelphia. I've lived all around. So
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'm Jennifer. I'm obviously the host of the podcast, and I live in San Diego, California. And for me, I agree with you. One of the reasons I created the podcast is because people don't really have a good awareness of what NLD is, and I'm trying to help them understand it better and be able to help people that have it if they're willing to and if they want to. So do you want to share when you were diagnosed with NLD? I think you said it was in
I
high
was
school.
diagnosed as a freshman in high school. I was very, very just struggled my whole life, and my parents are physicians, so that's kind of how we got to that point. But everybody else said it was just like, oh, he's dumb, he's lazy, he's whatever, and that's how we got to that point because my parents are physicians, so they kind of took over a little bit.
So did they actually do the testing for you since they're physicians?
No. I just went to get tested and realized how important it was. And I got tested in preschool and they just said ADD, and I got tested like twice or three times. So, I mean, because I think I'm that older generation, so a little bit older. So, and then after that, I just kind of was like, wow, okay.
That makes sense to me. I was tested in college, and I can see why NLD can be misdiagnosed because it's hard. I think it's one of the harder ones to get testing for because there's not a very good understanding of it, and there's no one definition out there of what it is.
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
so that can make it more challenging. Do you know what was the cause of your NLD? Like if it was genetic or something
Oh no, I
else?
have no idea. I'm guessing genetic, you know, probably. I think it's just like everybody is just like absolutely just thinks differently. And I feel like there's so many learning differences that people don't even know that are
Hmm.
on the spectrum or NLD, but they just don't get tested, or they're good at school, or they're in a situation where they don't need to. So I mean, I think it's a lot more common than people think.
I agree with you too. Yeah, it's not always clear what is the cause of a learning disability. For me, they said I was probably born with it. Um, so, how do you feel about having NLD, if you don't mind sharing?
I think at first in my life, growing up, it sucked. It was not a fun time with school. But now that I kind of am a partner and own my own business where I help high school kids and get to college for football.
Hmm.
And I work with all the way from the best players in the country all the way to like Division 3 guys. And when I was coaching football originally, it was like, oh, this, I didn't really fit in, and I didn't really do things in a certain way. And that's the same thing with academics. But now that I'm actually working alone and doing my own thing, it's very interesting because now I realize, like, wow, I don't need um, anyone else. Like, I do it and you think differently, and it actually makes you more successful. It's almost like an Elon Musk kind of thinking, which
Hmm.
I think is very, very interesting because we don't really fit in the scope of things and do things like everybody else. But once you get that opportunity, I think we are absolutely think differently, and no one else thinks like us, so it makes us successful.
I would agree with you on that. For me, I was frustrated growing up. I didn't know I had NLD until college, but I always thought there was something about me that made me different from the rest of my family.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, for me, I have a lot of different challenges, and I'm sure we'll talk about those.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, um, we, like you were saying, we do all things differently, and I think it's really cool that you have your own business that you're able to uh, use and create for yourself. I mean, for me, even though I don't really earn money from the podcast, it definitely feels like my own little thing that I created, so I can relate to that. So, what some of the things are that you do struggle with that you think are from NLD?
Organization, anxiety. I think you have to really understand anxiety is going to be one of the biggest ones, and then you always feel guilty.
Mm.
Like, and it's hard to get over certain things, which is really difficult. And I think sometimes also people think you come off as a jerk or come off as a because you are a little different, and sometimes that socially you say things that are maybe not the best to say
Hmm.
socially wise, and people think of you as a jerk. But I think that those are struggles sometimes, especially texting. For my world, I'm on Twitter all the time and everything like that, and it's dangerous for us NLD people because we don't think, we don't process, we don't do things, and after that, we just write it and type it, and then we send it, and and it's too late. So I think it's a very dangerous world for us if you have NLD, for the Twitter, the Instagram, the all those things, dating apps, all those things. And I always have to be on my phone for to do that. So it's a difficult situation because I'm always in the limelight.
Yeah, I can definitely resonate with what you're saying about technology. I have to be careful with how I'm coming across with that too, because I'm on my phone quite a bit with, whether it's a dating app or texting or social media. And, sometimes if I've known the person for a little while, I will let them know that, I'm not always aware of how I'm coming across when I say something. Um, when I say something in a virtual format, so let me know, because I don't want to have them, be mad or be embarrassed because of how I said something. Um, and that for me kind of helps, because I always say that to people who know I have NLD, and they understand why I'm much better in person with my with how I say things than I am virtually. Um, I think also what I struggle with is I've always struggled with math and with the visual spatial aspect of driving. I know some people with NLD can't drive. I don't know if you drive.
I do. I'm pretty high functioning on the NLD. I'm pretty good with the motor skills, to be honest. That doesn't, because I'm pretty high functioning on that regard. For me, I think the biggest thing is just, I think it's almost like, I don't want to say race, but when someone is racist, or we see a race, like, I think NLD, like, you don't see it. You don't see a learning disability, and you don't see, so it's a lot of the time we get just, it's like people put us down, or people think we don't care, or don't try, or are a jerk, or whatever it is. But I think a lot of us are misunderstood, which really, really affects us when we actually really do care.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, that it's easier to put us down because they don't see the NLD
Yeah.
because it's invisible. And it is similar in some ways to ethnicity with that. And I definitely agree with you on feeling guilty for things, because I've definitely felt guilty for mistakes I've made in my life. And it's hard, not to feel that way, and to um, try to feel like, why did I make that mistake,
Yeah.
and get over it. But I usually try to use them as, you know, learning lessons for myself, and try to figure out, okay, why did I make the mistake, and how can I not make it again? Which can be a hard thing to do, but it definitely is helpful. Um, so I know you went into this a little bit, but it sounded like you had a hard time growing up with NLD.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that um I think that NLD is just a very broad thing too, which is a real issue, is that everybody with NLD is not the same.
Mhm.
There's not I take Adderall, which really helps me. But not everybody is in the same boat, So um we all have different, just because that you are NLD doesn't mean that everybody is the same. So I mean, that's kind of how I see it. But the spectrum is so big, so for me, the biggest, hardest thing, I think, was school, and social too. I think social was hard, but school was really just really, really difficult for me. I hated school. Um, I just wasn't good at it. Um, and it
Is
really,
there one
really,
subject that was really difficult?
um, I'd say math was really, really, I failed business calculus like 10 times in college. I never passed it. So then I just switched my major. Um, but I think that the good thing about it is that I think we're changing, like, school wise,
Hmm.
that I think school is not as important and people are being more open minded just about life. So I don't think school is as important as, going to the Ivy League and going to all this stuff. And I really think that there are different routes that you can do, which, a lot of people are doing now.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think school is becoming less important, which I think is a good thing for people who have a learning disability like you and I do, because school was a nightmare for me too. It was definitely challenging academically for me when I was in college, at least before I had my accommodations. It Math was challenging for me. I I was barely passing my classes before I got my accommodations, which were extra time on tests and being able to record the audio of lectures so I could go back and listen to them. And then I also had the audio of my textbooks, um, because for me it was easier to remember audio, you know, than visual memory. Um, so, for me, it's easier to listen to a book than read it because I think I get too tired when I try to read a book. Um, does your family try to help you with your challenges?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I really do think that they do, and I wouldn't be where I am today without my family. They really believed in me and knew I was something special, and didn't give up on me. I think a lot of people just, or a lot of family, or a lot of people just call people dumb, and they give up. And I think that just because you're not good at school doesn't mean that you're not good at life.
Hmm.
And there's a big and there's not a and they're not there's no correlation. So I think that sometimes people think that just because you have a hard time at 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 school doesn't mean it's over, because there's a lot of things that you can do. And my family and parents and brother, they really realized that and helped me out. And that's why I think I'm successful today.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Just because you're not good in school doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful at being, being able to achieve things in life and complete your goals, and be independent. Um, I'm fortunate too to have a very supportive family. They try to help me in any way that they can with the challenges that I go through. When I was in actually even in college, they were willing to get me tutors to help me with my difficult subjects. So that definitely helped when uh, with math, and being able to have somebody explain something to you over and over again until you got it. um,
Yeah.
because that definitely um, can be sometimes what it takes, whether for a lot of things, when you have an ugly. Um, my mom, I think, uh, she definitely has supported me in a lot of ways. Like she, last 2 years of my college, she was my essay coach. She basically would read over my essays, which were a lot because I was a sociology major, and she would help me proofread them, which was very helpful to have another person do that. And because she knew I had NLD and she knew more about how my brain worked and how it thought, it was easier for her to help me than somebody else. So that was very helpful for me. And another thing that's been helpful is my parents and my brother. They've all been my driving coaches in terms of trying to help me learn how to park a car or be able to, be safe when I'm driving and be aware of my surroundings, which is really helpful for me because I think for me, the biggest thing other than the academic and social is the visual spatial, and trying to make sure I leave enough space between me and another vehicle. Yeah, that's one of my challenges. So on a more positive note, do you feel like you are able to do some things more easily because you have NLD?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think that you think differently, and some things come easier to some people, and other things come harder to others. I think your creativity, and we all are very, very creative in different ways. So, for me, just I think is that one thing that is a big thing for me is just I will never ever hire someone that shows up on time, because the person that doesn't show up on time is usually the creative one that thinks outside the box, in my opinion.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's a lot of NLD people have. So that's something for me, at least, that I see. And for me, is football is kind of a hard thing. Most people that have NLD are not in football.
Mm-hmm.
But the big thing about that is that I think that I'm just good at talking to people in my weird way, and you think outside the box, and you get stuff done in a different way, which is very, very probably not the most I don't know how to say it. It's you do it in your own way, in kind of a weird way, and people are like, "How did that happen?" But you just do it because in a different way, which is it's almost a creative kind of way. So in the coaching of with the meatheads and being that kind of way, you don't fit in. But now I'm working my own business and working one-on-one with the kids I really connect with, and it's kind of a different thing.
Yeah, I definitely can understand what you were saying about creativity. I mean, for me, I feel like I'm very creative as well, and being able to, like you were saying, thinking through things differently than most people do, and being able to, think, like you're saying, think outside the box, and being able to do something in a way that is different than when somebody else would do that, because that's easier for you. I mean, so, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think for me, I was kind of leading at this already, but I definitely am more auditorily attuned than I think some people are. I'm very good at memorizing song lyrics and lines from movies, which is kind of fun because then you can rattle things off very easily. And I find it fun anyways, especially when my brother doesn't have NLD, he's neurotypical, but he has the same talent that I have for memorizing, song lyrics and movie lines. And it's kind of fun to go back and forth with him with the movie scenes. And for me, I've always had a big heart, and I try to, be kind towards other people, and I try to be empathetic. And, if I can't be empathetic, I try to be sympathetic, and try to understand how it would feel to be in their own shoes, in different situations. Um, so is there something that you wish the world knew more about NLD?
Yeah, just understanding and being aware of it, and just knowing how to go about it, and be just in school wise for me, personally, just that not everybody is ADD, and just because if teachers understand better, we would be in a lot better situation,
Mhm.
so um that's how I see it. At least I think school is the most important way of understanding that we all think differently. We don't, and even if you don't have NLD or you do have NLD, that we all think differently, whatever you do and whatever you have. So I think there are so many people that do have NLD that don't even know it.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And um, we definitely, I mean, everybody thinks differently, even if, like you were saying, even if they don't have NLD. Um, it's interesting that you bring up teachers, because I recently started some interviews with teachers that have students who are either on the spectrum, they have ADHD, or they have NLD, or they're learning challenges and or differences, and they try to think of creative ways to help them out, that I think other teachers don't always think about. And I would agree with you. It would be good for teachers to be able to have a better understanding of it and be more aware of it, so that they can help us more in school. Um, do you ever wish you didn't have NLD?
Oh, for sure, all the time. I think that um you're definitely it definitely is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what it taught me is that not everybody thinks like you think, and um it can be a very, very lonesome, very, very long days, because you care. I think we care a lot, and not just care, but I think is that most people in this world do not think, and we're always thinking. I think people be so I think that's a very difficult thing, is that your brain just never ever turns off.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why I was laughing, because um, it, for me, it's definitely hard to turn my brain off. And there are times where I wish I didn't have NLD, because uh, it can be very lonely and very frustrating. Um, and I think sometimes people with NLD might care a little too much, but I don't know, maybe that's a good thing. Um, but I know other times for me, you know, I'm okay with having it because it makes me who I am, and um, that wouldn't be true if I didn't have it. Do you ever feel like it's a burden or a heavy weight on you?
Yeah, all the time. um I mean, it's just like you're very different, and I think a lot of the time, like, you have to just accept, like, what you go through, and it is very long. uh just a very difficult thing to deal with, you know, and it's that I think another thing that is really hard about it is that people that you kind of get over things, or you have struggles that people don't see. The struggles, like, for example, for me being organized, you know, and people that are like, oh, well, you don't care, you know, you don't do this, you don't do, but that's just how we are, because, you know, football for me is very easy. Coaching football is not hard at all. But being organized, having my thoughts organized, everything that it has to do with organization and all that stuff is really, really hard for me. But other things I think come easier to us that school does not measure, and other things do not measure. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree with you on some of those things where, you know, for me, I have challenges with organization as well. And, you know, like you said earlier, everybody with NLD is different. And it's definitely hard for me to organize my thoughts and be able to, you know what I'm saying and how it's gonna how it's gonna sound before I say it, and how it's gonna impact that person I might be talking to. And it's actually kind of funny. I find myself many times, I don't know if you do this, but I talk to myself a lot, and sometimes that helps me organize my thoughts better. And it definitely is difficult having NLD because I know for me, I'm definitely self-conscious about myself and the things I say and the things I do and how other people perceive them. So that can make it be somewhat of a burden or challenging. So just a few more questions. What would you tell others who have NLD as motivation when they get discouraged or frustrated?
I would say just follow your dreams, and, you know, whatever that is or whatever your special talent is, just be tunnel vision and just do that, and believe in that, and don't listen to anyone else, what they say, or, you know, Dave Grohl, one of my favorite quotes is, you know, look at the people on your posters on your wall and say, I can be that, I can do that. That's a nice way he says that, but he cusses a lot. But I don't want to do that for your podcast. But I really think that is very true. Is that, you know, just believe and just do what you want to do, whatever that is. And I think our society is going a little bit in that direction, anyways. You know, so it doesn't matter, because I think that unless you want to be a doctor, you don't have to do well in school anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you on being able to follow your dreams and definitely not giving up on yourself, because, you know, for me, I'm a very determined person in terms of trying to make something easier for me to do. And I think that definitely helps, because when you have an LD, you have a lot of challenges in life. And if you can think of different ways to make one of them or more than one not so difficult for you, that makes it easier. And I know that can be a hard thing to do depending on what that challenge is. What would you tell people who don't know they have NLD, or another learning challenge, but they suspect they might?
If you're financially stable, go get tested and get evaluated to see what you have and how you can be helped. But if not, I just think that just figure out a way that makes you successful. Do what you have to do to be just because it's a hard thing to say because everybody is in their own situation and it's not everybody has financial means to get tested, to get help. So it's a very difficult kind of thing to just say, hey, yeah, go up there, because a lot of people today don't have thousands of dollars to go get tested. Like for me, I got tested, I did all this stuff. I went to the SALT program, which is at University of Arizona, the Learning Disability Program. Like that's thousands of dollars. A lot of people don't have the money and don't have the means to do that.
Yeah.
It all depends on the situation. So I think it is a hard situation to just say for everybody.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It is definitely hard to do the testing, like you were saying, because of the financial means. And I think, if you don't have the financial means for it, trying to do as much research as you can online about NLD or other learning differences so that you can figure out which one or which ones, maybe you have more than one. That way it's easier for you to be able to get through life, because I know for me I found it easier once I was diagnosed because I knew how I thought through things better and I knew how I learned better, and I knew why so many things were challenging for me. So it was definitely a sign of relief for me in many ways. And being able to, I think, do that is can be helpful. All right. One more question. What is your proudest accomplishment?
I guess now it's having a company and just getting to do what I love, of coaching football and getting to work with kids. And it's been a dream of mine. So that's basically it.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think for me, usually my answer is graduating from college, because that was definitely hard for me with NLD and with going through some personal things in my life at that time. And I think for me, I'm also very proud of creating my podcast, because I'm able to share with others my challenges and try to make them, know that they're not alone and that there is somebody else out there that also has some of the same challenges as they do and understands what it's like to be different and what it's like to have NLD, and to be able to be an ally and a friend for them, and try to support them through the podcast. Yeah, so thank you for letting me interview you today. I enjoyed doing it, and that's basically it, unless you have any questions for me.
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, then.
Hopefully what you can do with these episodes on this podcast, Living with Invisible Learning Challenge, I would like to challenge you to journal about the episodes and just see what you learn from them. Or you can share about the episodes with your friends and family and see what they can learn from them. And as always, I will post the links to the articles that I use in the description of the podcast. And Please let me know if you know somebody who you think would want to be interviewed on this podcast, or if you yourself would want to be interviewed. Please email me. I have my email on my website, and I also have it pretty much pretty accessible on Facebook and Instagram through messaging as well. So you can get in contact with me in those ways.